Hi, thank you for joining. This video will cover some of the changes that have gone into effect under the new Real Estate Board regulations as of April 2026. A lot of this regulation rewrite focused on streamlining information and organizing it into a more user-friendly document. But today we're going to go over some more substantive changes as well. Starting with the first regulation regarding places of business, the language in this section has been updated to match the changes in the laws that were made in 2024. The language no longer talks about having a place of business in a home and needing a separate entrance and accessibility. Instead, it now states that every principal broker must have the following readily available to the public in the primary place of business: the firm license, the broker's license, and the license of all the salespersons and brokers active with the firm. In other words, a licensee can now operate from the home without meeting any special physical requirements. But if they hold the home out to the public as a regular place of business, that may trigger a branch office license requirement under the law. Now let's talk about the duties of a supervising broker. Two things of note here are the explicit broker supervision duty to provide supervision of broker services in a timely manner. That means that brokers must respond to agents in a timely manner. There is also a new requirement that brokers, quote, act with reasonable diligence and promptness in responding to inquiries from cooperating brokers, end quote. This is the new language that prompted a definition of, quote, cooperating broker to be added to the regulations. What does that mean? It means that brokers must respond promptly to inquiries from brokers on the other side of the transaction. Next, we're going to talk about payment to unlicensed assistants. Previously, unlicensed assistants were not allowed to be paid per transaction, and now that's been changed. So it may make your life a little easier. Next, we're going to talk about improper escrow maintenance. Used to be there was a mandatory self-reporting rule, and that is no longer effective. That means that if an agent has committed an escrow violation, the broker no longer has to report them. However, brokers must still supervise their agents, and it is likely that if there are repeated instances of escrow violations from a firm, the broker could be held in violation, and that could affect agents as well. So please be mindful to take care of your escrows and your earnest money deposits as you should, so that your license is maintained. Now we're going to go to our biggest change, advertising simplified and standardized. Advertising will no longer be treated differently, whether it is digital, print, signs, or business cards. It's all the same. And the biggest change here is the one click away rule is gone. That's all gone now. So now what we're going to do is all advertising must have clear and legible disclosure of the firm name and the contact information. Not just the name and the contact information. Now this can be up to your broker, but the definition of contact information is telephone number, email address, web address of the firm, and physical address. So this is up to your broker, but this must be disclosed on all advertising. We're going to continue on. This next requirement is a little bit new, that all advertising must be updated timely. So if you have done an advertisement for your just listed, as soon as it goes under contract and when it's sold, you must update those posts and videos to say what the current status is. So if it's been withdrawn, you can say withdrawn, or you can delete that post so that it no longer says that the home is for sale, because that is not accurate. If for some reason something with the house changes, the example here talks about if you're advertising a house with a barn and the barn burns down, you must update that to remove the barn from the listing so that the listing is accurate at all times. Expanded prohibited acts. Previously, this regulation stated that you couldn't allow unsupervised access to a home without the owner's authorization. Now the regulation states that any unauthorized activity is prohibited, supervised or not. So any access to the property without the owner's authorization is a violation, whether you're there or not. So make sure you have written authorization from your client. Let's see. This one is the prohibition against performing any regular activity outside of your brokerage firm still exists, but now there is a big exception. The new language says, except for instances in which the licensee has an ownership interest in the property. So remember, brokers have the final say as to what is and is not allowed, so check with your broker and your policies. Improper financial dealings states that a salesperson can receive compensation for licensed activity from someone other than the broker if prior written consent is given from the broker. The biggest example of this is at closing if an agent is being reimbursed for maybe homeowners association documents that were paid for. The agent is now able to be reimbursed by the closing firm, so that we're not in violation of anything there. This also may be one of the biggest changes to the regulation. This was added. This is something that most businesses have been doing, but now it's in writing so that they can, continuing education can include this information. So actions constituting improper dealing, including offering real property for sale or for lease without the knowledge of the actual owner. So what we're talking about here is verifying someone's identity. A lot of times in our market, we are a lead will come to us and they'll say, hey, I want to sell my vacant land. And if enough steps are not taken to prove that person's identity, it could be that could be a scam. So now we have in writing some steps that we should take as individual agents and brokers to make sure that we are verifying the identity of whether the seller or the buyer that we're meeting with, to make sure that they are who they say they are. The first suggestion is to meet that person in person or even a video call to get face to face with them, and then ask for supporting documents. So multiple forms of identification, not just a driver's license, but maybe something else. And also, when you're asking for documentation, you want to make sure their signature matches. Maybe if they sign documents for you and send something over for you, make sure that their face matches their driver's license. And always trust your gut. If you feel like something's uncomfortable, trust yourself and be on the cautious side. You can also work with your settlement agent to help verify the identity of someone and look at tax records as well. So that's it. That's all the big changes. Please contact your broker if you have questions. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking a few minutes to go over these new changes from DPOR in the state of Virginia for April of 2026. Thank you.